All right, y'all. It is 5:31 and almost 5:32. Let's get it going. We just want to respect the time of everybody that showed up. This is so much fun to see everybody popping up on the screen. I'm just going to come up with important announcements just to have webinars so we get to see everybody. I guess it's really a blast. So good to see each of you. Thanks for taking the time to get together. Brianna is managing tech and hospitality. So if you have any tech issues or something breaks, she's on the chat. So make sure you connect with her. We'll be watching our chat as well too. So yeah, thanks for being here. It's almost the year end. So for those of you still trying to get to the holidays, here's to having stamina and making it through. It's been a really amazing few months here, mostly because this concept of me taking a sabbatical for January through May has forced a lot of amazing conversations about, well, how do we do our work? Do we have a plan? Hassan keeps asking me questions about, so what's our system for this? And I'm like, that's a great question. So the goal of this webinar is to just catch you up on that topic and share some other fun news from the last quarter and just open it up because hopefully there's fun questions, ideas you have. If you want to celebrate, share anything from your world, this is a fun time to do that too. So let me share my screen and jump into my set of slides. I'm going to go to my desktop and then you're going to see yourselves. And then I'm going to go to Keynote. And man, I was so prepared, and there it is. All right, 2 seconds, y'all. Sorry. Let's do it. Okay, let me get this vid out of here. Sorry. Help me, Hassan.
Let's do.
There we go.
Yeah, let's take this one out.
Okay. Sorry, guys. Man, let me move this out of the way a little bit. There we go. Boom. All right. Now we're ready for 2018. I was not really ready for it a few minutes ago. Okay, so that's the title of this slide deck. Exciting news. 2 new teammates. Hassan was masterful in the process of getting the word out. Showing hospitality to more than 100 candidates from all around the country. And I'm just so excited to get to work with Marlo, who is joining Sydney on the Essentials team, and Rachel, who is joining Austin on the Tiny team. They are delightful, incredibly smart, visionary people. And hopefully you'll get a chance to meet them. They're just remarkable. And I'm just totally humbled that they're joining this team. The bulk of our conversation will be about the rest of this agenda, which is the sabbatical that we've been planning for the last 2 years with the board. And Hassan and I have been working at a dedicated weekly pace for the last 6 months for. And I can't tell you how fired up I am to get the hell out of the way, not just of Hassan, but of the whole team. It's just such an amazing opportunity to step back and reflect on where we've been. It's been very humbling for me as a CEO to say I have to be intentional about how we work, what we do, how we think, so that Hassan and the team can be set up for success. So a lot of this conversation is just kind of sharing that with you. So I'll go through a few slides and we'll get to a conversation about it. But that's what I want to spend the time on. I want to start with this, that I recognize, I don't know if I fully appreciate, but I'm trying to appreciate how lucky I am to get to do this. Not everybody works at an organization that has the resources and the team. Not everyone has the life occasion and the flexibility in their family occasion where we are in life. I'm just very lucky to get to do this. And this is a privilege that I get, and I want to be conscious of that and use this opportunity to the benefit of our community. I just don't take this lightly. We're establishing this as a process for everyone on the team. This is not just a CEO perk. This is also something that I think I'm looking at it as an opportunity to really focus in on this one particular element of our pathway as an organization, as a community. It's this continuum that I see my personal construct as an educator evolving through. It's part of my identity as a white man doing this work. Like, I've done most of my career through this lens of doing school and school reform to people. And I'm trying to be conscious of my own path to doing that with students and families. And there's a third stage to that. How do we do our work with the vision that students and families can navigate the world on their own, that we're empowering, we're not just putting knowledge into them as containers, the way Paulo Freire might frame it. That's not our job as educators, to just fill children up with knowledge. It's to empower them that they can run on their own power. And that's this concept of buy. So I'm going to come back to that a couple more times. And that's a area of thinking and study that I'm going to be pursuing while I'm gone. Again, I feel like we have the opportunity to do this really interesting experiment. And a lot of this has been driven by the experience I've had as a father of 2 students at New Orleans NOLA micro schools. My 12-year-old Marion was in the founding cohort. This is her 3rd year. Caroline, my middle kid, turned 10 today. We've got birthday cake at 8 p.m. tonight because of the crazy schedule. That is bad parenting. Don't do that. And we all speak Spanish because all the kids started. Warren is an 8-year-old. He's still at international school. They all started in Spanish immersion. I speak Spanish. My wife speaks Spanish. But I don't feel like this is really a part of our life. And I think my daughters have both felt, we're losing our Spanish. So one of the things that sparked this was, can we build on the base that we gave our kids with Spanish as a language they started as kindergartners? This is one response to the feeling we've had that we're not leveraging that investment. Another is just this idea of, what does the concept of porous walls look like? I don't believe school or learning has to happen in the brick building we call school. And so the last 3 years have been me asking that question: how can we explore that? So my wife and I have been working on a curriculum that we're going to add to their current framework. All 3 kids, we've worked with their schools to package what we'll do in South America and make sure that they can stay on track academically. And they've been amazing, so helpful in that. And then Virginia and I are working on a curriculum that we're creating where in each country we go to, we're going to be studying the indigenous and the colonizing cultures in that country. And that's something we've both been really interested in. And we're both teachers, both middle school teachers, and that's been really fun to work on together. I think, again, the intentionality here with 4.0 is that we hit 7 years now, and I keep thinking about, oh my gosh, we might make 10 years. That'd be amazing. And so I think I've stepped back with the board as when we hit the 5-year mark is when we started talking about this idea. And it's taken 2 years to find the space and the sequence where it really makes sense. And I'm really excited to come back. The team and I have talked about, one of my jobs when I come back is, here are some options for what we might do with 4.0 over the next 3-5 years. And they're going to be focused on this concept of going from doing work to doing work with and doing work, being facilitators of empowering students and families. And I'm psyched about that. I think that the to with by sequence has been greatly informed by what is now about 6 months of wearing these 2 new values. I think it's early days. Monday, during our team retreat, one of the existing Tiny Wave 3 teams run by Darnisa and Daisy, they run a program called Deep. They're actually going to be here running 4.0 staff through an equity and race bias instruction where we all level up on our ability to work together and better understand how race and identity play into our work together. And that's so meta for me and so cool that an existing Tiny Wave team can speak into our experience as 4.0. And that's an amazing opportunity for us to ask for help. This is us growing with you. as members of our community, not us telling you what to do or teaching you all the wisdom that we supposedly have. And so I'm really excited to participate in that conversation, even though I'm not with the team. How are we making these two values equal with hospitality, yes, and act like an owner, the values we've had since inception? That's something I'm very excited about and plan to come back to the team with. Here's some ideas about where we might go next. I think this has also been a really humbling and exciting experience, especially with Hassan, to say, I am going to give you this responsibility, and I'm really giving it to you. It's not just, he's not just playing CEO, he is the interim CEO. He's in charge, he's going to make the decisions. And I can't tell you how fun it's been to just watch Hassan prepare for this. He is so intentional. He's so thoughtful. He asks questions at such a deep level, at a level I never have thought to ask on so many fronts. And for 4.0's sake, for your sake, for the world's sake, I'm just fired up to really see Hassan lead us. He's not the only person leading us. Everybody on the team, we've been working for the last 2 months on how my departure for 4.5 months will impact each person. And everybody's got a role that they're adding to their list of to-dos. And I feel completely supported. One of the questions we want to uncover here is how will y'all step up? There are probably some options for y'all to step up and help. Lastly, duct tape reduction. Many of the answers to Hassan's questions, hey, what's our process for that, has been mostly duct tape, really, and spit, and maybe we should come up with a system for that. So it's been a very humbling process as a founder to say, holy cow, I am still dealing with a suboptimal solution, and the community 4.0 requires that we level up in this area. And that's been very humbling and exciting, and I've been grateful for that. All right, so I'm done. I'm going to hand it to Hassan. He's going to tell you a little bit about how this might impact you directly as alums, then we'll open it up for discussion.
Yeah, thanks, Matt.
Yeah.
I think you go back to gallery view.
Yeah, I'll get out of the whole screen share biz.
Thanks. So thank you, Matt, for framing that. And like Matt mentioned, it's just we all feel really thankful to be in a place as a community to be able to take this, do this experiment with you over the next few months. Matt talked about why we're doing this, and I really want to just kind of build on that with what it means for all of us. Like you're the community, you're the reason we wake up every day wanting to support. So to do that well, this has to be a conversation. So pretty quickly, I would love, and actually even as we're going, please drop your questions, things you're thinking about, and would love to quickly transition to a conversation. But just to quickly, affirm a couple things that Matt mentioned, our team has just been preparing for this, really excited to use this opportunity to make 4.0 stronger while Matt is out, and even stronger when he comes back in the fall. So, from as you're going to the holidays and thinking about potential people who should join this community, the date is set in March for us to open the application. So we're here. Brianna, Malaran, Cam would love to hear from you. Trains are running. We're starting the recruiting now for that. I see a lot of current fellows who are going to be joining us. Like Janine, I see you coming up here with Wave 4. We're all excited. Tiny team is less tiny now, and it's having Rachel on the team, having Marlo on the team, where we feel more prepared than ever to just support you in the work that you're doing as our current fellows with Tiny and Essentials, and of course our alumni and our graduating fellows, Raf and Victoria Chen, who's actually a Wave 2 graduate, have been just hard at work thinking about building a network of partners and pathways to support all of you as you're continuing to grow and build on the work that you're doing with your own ventures. And as always, we can't do this work without all of you coming back and coaching with us as we continue to serve more and more fellows. So we're excited, we're ready to run this experiment. And I really would love to just open it up and hear from you. What are some of the things that are on your mind? Things you're curious about, ideas you have, questions. We can do it both ends. We can do it in chat, and we can also unmute if you want to just jump in and talk to us. Awesome. I just got an instruction from Brianna, who's managing out tech. One really handy feature is you can raise your hands in the Zoom, and that's how we're going to unmute you.
Bryce. All right. Bryce Miller asks, Matt, can I use your car while you're away?
That's a good question.
And I have witnesses only if I get to drive your car when I get back, because Bryce has a much nicer car than I will ever have. So I am absolutely willing to negotiate that with you. Totally. I need somebody, a car can't sit for 4 months. We will talk. That's a deal. Man, we're getting some good work done. That's some quality work. That is a very real problem. What do you do with your car for 4 months?
I think it's a great.
You call Bryce and you say, Bryce, take it for a spin.
Exactly.
Janine. All right. Janine asked, what prompted Kimball Diaz? We don't know how to raise our hands. That worked. You can just raise your real hand and we'll eventually see it. Let's hit Janine's question. What a good question. What prompted 4.0 to partner with Deep to delve deeper into equity issues? How do you want to grow? So I think this is one, how did we add equity as a value? I think about 2 years ago, we made a big shift in the programming to make both fellowships accessible to people before they quit their job. And I think that was one easy tweak we could make. It took us about a year to sort of institutionalize all those changes, but that was in response to us not seeing the diversity of ideas and the diversity of people in our program that we aspired to serve. And I think that was based on the incredibly limiting perspective that quitting your job was a way to sort of prove your mettle. And I think we had sort of bought into that myth that I think is still very alive in Silicon Valley, for example. It's like, I think one of the reasons why entrepreneurship in tech is mostly male and mostly white is to be able to quit your job and prove this point to the investor class, you need resources. And usually those are a function of privilege. And so I think that was the beginning of this conversation that we had with ourselves. Like, how will our commitment to equity play out at 4.0? How do we start interrogating what we do? How do I, as a white man and CEO to a community that's serving many people of color, how do I process my own identity? How do I create a culture that's inclusive? How do we share power? And even the meta issues of, at the core, I don't think school is equitable to students and families, especially students who are poor or students and families who are of color. Like, the statistics are very real that the people we serve have not been given an equitable layering of resources. And so it starts at the core for us that we seek a future of school that is equitable, that every child has the opportunity to thrive. And then I think we've just been asking that question. And then Deep is one of how many teams in this current Tiny Wave 3 are thinking about equity and inclusion and diversity?
I think at least 6 or 7.
Yeah, about 6 or 7. Yeah. Some of y'all are on the team.
Yeah.
Kim and Andrew.
Kim and Andrew.
Some on the call. So, actually, it would be really fun. I'm going to put Kim and Andrew on the spot, and then you also can ask your question. But like, I'd love to hear from y'all's perspective. What has it felt like as a team? Like, and be as transparent as you want. Like, I don't think we're there yet. We're not the organization we want to be for teams who see diversity, equity, and inclusion as core to their business. And so, Janine, I think you're just seeing us in the middle of our own process of trying to be the organization and the community you want to be. And Deep is just a remarkable organization, and they reached out. And what I love about Deep is they said, hey, here's a proposal for us to help y'all level up. And like, that just meant the world to me, that somebody in the community says, I got a way to make you better. And so this has been really fun.
I'll double down on that. And I think Deep, came through this last cohort, the wave of fellows. They saw that, like, when they participated, they saw opportunities to help us and teach us, right? And like hold us, even just like help us practice what we preach when we talk about to, with, by, right? So like for the thing that I really admire Denise and Daisy for just reaching out and saying, here's where we see you needing to grow 4.0. We're in with this community with you. Here's what we can teach you. And it is really humbling for us to go back to the point that Matt talked about with like sharing power. Like, one of the first things, in the same way that we think, the genius of kids is there, and they're teaching in many times, like they have a lot to teach their educators. For us, like, we see you all as like the people that we work with, and it's an opportunity for us to learn from you. And Deep is just has been an amazing experience of an example of a team that just held us to that and is helping us get better as an organization.
Yeah. So. It's just like that to me is like a brilliant example of yes and. Like, this is what that value means to me, is that a team would be willing to say, yeah, and we think we can help you level up with that. Okay.
We give it to Kim.
Kim and Andrew.
They asked the next question.
Your next question was, we heard about alumni being able to support the work with coaching, which is exciting. Is there any other way we can support during the transition? Yeah. You got any thoughts?
Yeah. I'm going to actually unmute. Let me just try something here.
Let's do it.
I'm going to unmute Kimberly and Andrew. And just for the fun of it, I'm going to unmute Janine too. Maybe we'll have a conversation.
No.
But yeah, any color, either of you want to add to that conversation? And Kimberly, Diaz, if you want to even build on the question that you asked us.
Yeah, no, I think that's really exciting. I think for Tiny Wave 2, we were one of the few organizations that was really tackling this diversity stuff. And I'm excited to hear about the work you all are putting in to better serve and work with your ventures. I think it's so important. So we're really excited to hear about that. And excited to be part of y'all's journey on the way. And One Tilt would love to help in any way we can. You all have been so helpful to us, of course. But one thing we were thinking about is, like, we now are starting to get our feet under us at One Tilt, right? So we're like starting to go full time, and we now are in that place where we can give back, and 4.0 was such a critical part for us to like get our feet under us. And so we're just curious, like, what else can we do? Because we know the team is great and you all are going to have everything handled clearly, but anything we do as alums to support, we're like happy to do.
Cool. Awesome. I think I'll definitely start by saying, yes, we are going to, we would love to take you up on that, Kimberly. And, I would actually say we don't have everything squared away. I would be lying if I said that's true. I think where we are as an organization is just like acknowledging that where we are right now and how, prepping for the things that we know we need to prepare for. And we used to do we did a lot of role playing as a team to like also just like prepare for the unknown. And if anybody wants to talk about role playing as a strategy to prepare for risk management, I would love to talk with you. We've been learning a lot as an organization, and we have a lot more work to do. And to answer your question, Kimberly, I think as an organization, we're just starting to scratch the surface of how our community can help the community of 4.0 do our work better. So ways that we've already started doing this have been, have founder advisors who are the coaches in the Tiny Fellowship, seeing alumni come back and coach with us, both in Tiny and in Essentials. having alumni, come recruit. And, we are officially at the place as an organization where our best recruiting channel is our alumni. So the people who come to our fellowships, most of them are coming through direct referrals from our alumni. A lot of the pathway support that RAF is working on with Victoria, who is an alum of 4.0, is a lot of it now is being done through alumni as well. So alumni who got into a specific partner are helping other alumni, like, review their applications for Camelback or review their applications for Echoing Green. So from the beginning of the 4.0 kind of founder journey of bringing in folks into the community, to the latter part of the journey of just connecting the alumni to resources, we're seeing alumni playing a significant role, often better than 4.0 staff, to amplify our impact. So, and again, I really think this is just scratching the surface. So, people again, Deep, you, Kimberly, and Andrew, there are I think there are a lot of other avenues that we haven't even explored yet. So we're excited to brainstorm that with you on that.
Yeah, I'll build on that. This is my highly technical chart of founder to founder relationships. I'll narrate it if you can't see it. So one of the changes from launch to, I'll cover my face because it's less interesting than it sounds, is, at launch we had teams here for a month in the old days. And so that within the cohort bonding was tight. It was a really big feature of how we created community between founders. And the new format of Tiny is less that way. You have a month of sprint together virtually, and then you have a weekend. And so we know that the connectivity within the cohort is going to be harder as a function of the time you spend together in New Orleans, because that's been cut by a factor of 10. What we're curious about are these two big questions, and this is why we need your help on recruiting and coaching, and even things like pitching us like Deep did on things you can help with, is because we have a thesis that now that cohorts are 35 teams to 40 teams large, the question that Hassan's asking, and we have some experiments going on this, can city-based geographic connectivity be a replacement for that month together? And then the other is, especially like Kim and Andrew, y'all are, grandfather and grandmother to Tiny Wave 4 teams focused on the same issues you're focused on. And those intergenerational links are some of the most powerful and under-invested links within our community. And so whenever you're willing to give us connections to people who might be next Tiny or Essentials Wave, or do coaching or do recruiting for us, whether it's events or outreach, and we will pay for that, it just gives us an opportunity to replace the connective fabric of being together for a month with some of these other types of fabric. So I think there's a lot of assumptions we have made about the power of that, but the more y'all can step up and say, I'm down to try one of these gigs out, that really is strategically really important to the community.
Yeah. We got a question from Brian and a question from Jessica.
Cool.
So let's hit it in order. So Brian's question is, any development in building 4.0 communities, recruiting outside of New Orleans? It's fun because we have Brianna and Maloran on the call too. So I won't put you on the spot unless do you want to take it? I'm happy to also just share some of the highlight of what we're working on.
How about you share the highlights and I'll jump in.
Cool. So wait, Brian, I'm going to unmute you too so we can chat about it. Any other additional color that you want to add to it too?
Yeah, totally. Well, I just added in the chat box, but I hope I'm not alone in saying that, when I'm in the 4.0 offices and among a bunch of other people who are part of my cohort, it's just this really special space, and there's a sense of possibility. And folks have such wonderful, amazing backgrounds and perspectives and insights. Obviously it's not sustainable to have that all the time. But yeah, to what extent have you been able to kind of build, little pockets of that in places outside of New Orleans in the last year. I know there's the history with New York and stuff like that, but I'd be curious about any updates you have on that.
Yeah, that's a great question, Brian. Are you still in Minneapolis? Or are you in Minneapolis now?
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. I'll jump in, and then Cambria is on the call too. So Cam, Bree, or Malaron, feel free to jump in. Like Matt mentioned, Brian, we're honest, to be transparent on where we are right now. Like that is like the part of Tiny Fellowship and even Essentials that we're actively trying to answer and trying to clarify. And it's both, the things that we're learning, right, is like it really helps to have density, right, in a particular city, right? It's like when we look at communities like DC, communities like the Bay Area, honestly, like they don't even need 4.0. They kind of probably want us to sometimes get out of the way, maybe pay for some happy hours, show up every now and then and say hi, right? But they're like, we got this, like we found, they're building the community on their own. It has the context and the flavor of the community that they're in. So I think one of the questions that we continue to keep asking is like, when we have, a fellow like you in Minneapolis, or like Brad in Boise, or, places where we don't have that many, alums, how might we basically, one, work with those alumni who are, again, the most important asset from our perspective, right? Like, because they're in the ground, they know the city. How do we get them to you talk to each other first, and then, we can invest with them to find more of the people in the community who can continue to join the community and kind of seed that density over time. So even just to like use an example right now, the luck just has it that you and Steve are right next to each other on this call.
Yeah, how about that?
So,
Hi, Steve. From across the city.
I'm gonna unmute both of you, but like, I think some of the things that we're curious about is like, how do we, use some of the assets that we have here in New Orleans, like, whether it's capital that we have that we can, work with both of you to like host happy hours, or and once there are more fellows there, work with you to potentially be coaches on them, and just find ways to reinvest in the community that way, using the alumni who are in the city. That's the thing that we're just beginning to explore. But to be totally honest, like that's what we want to brainstorm with you and get better at over the next few semesters.
Yeah, I think you're right that the key is creating the pipeline, right? And alums are the kind of keystone in making that happen. I'm just thinking like randomly, Steve, there's a Startup Week events here in the Twin Cities, and he had me present at one that he was putting on that had a whole bunch of ed tech people in it. That's a setting where I suppose it would be on me or him to think a little more proactively about it. But like, even if it's 4.0 swag, or like a short video, or like, a table, or 15-minute presentation or whatever that I or he, or I don't know. I think there's fan school guys here. There's some other people from 4.0. But when those opportunities arise organically, like making the most of them, and I'm presuming that you would say when those come up, like let you know, and we'll help you run with it. But there's just some thoughts offhand.
Brianna was shaking her head very clearly and taking some notes because like this is helpful too, right? Hearing from you here, even in this platform, is helpful to also, because we have a responsibility here too, right? To think, what can we do? So hearing from you that feedback is really helpful. Steve or Brianna, do you all want to add to that?
It's just super energizing to hear. Okay, there we go. Okay, so it's super energizing to hear that we're actually getting ready to go in retreat. So you are literally music to my ears right now. So right now I am definitely thinking about the systems that make it a turnkey process for you to do things like that, especially when it's something that comes up organically. And so I think a part of our team, we call ourselves the people team, is figuring out how we can unleash the assets that we have here so that when you have those opportunities, it's not a burden. It's something that is delightful and fun for you to do, but it's also something that is easy. And so I think that's the key, right, is when you go out into your community and you're telling people to come to 4.0, we want to make sure that you have the support from us to make sure that the people that you're sending to us are successful and that they get through, through our application process. And so that has looked different. Our last application cycle, this past one, we had events in 11 cities. And that was an increase from the time before that where we had events in 6 cities. So we are constantly digging into whether it's an event, whether it's a small setting, group activity where you're just going through the application with someone. There are different ways that people want to support. There are different talents that people have and they bring to the table. And so our people team is really trying to dig into that. There are also different communities that have different needs. So we're really chewing on rural communities right now. We're really chewing on kind of the cities where we already have a large presence and what it looks like for us to kind of unleash and let that run free. We don't want to hold it back. But we have our ears to you guys to learn about opportunities that we might not be exploring yet. And so I'm really excited to continue chewing on this. And like I said, we're going into retreat. So it feels good to know that you guys are so excited and ready to jump in.
Thanks.
All right, here's another very sophisticated graphic that I made about this topic. We pay alums to host local events. If that didn't come through clearly, there is a budget that's Bree mentioned the 11 local events. The majority of those were planned, hosted, and followed up on by alums that we had on contract. So just know that that's what we mean by this. It's not just your generosity. We have a intentionally thin staff because we have the budget reserved to pay y'all to do it, because we think that you're going to be a better judge of the folks that are going to ultimately apply. Okay. Ken's following up. Sweet. And then we got Jessica's question. Are there any initiatives you're hoping to take on during Matt Sabbatical? Hassan?
Yeah, we're going to blow this.
No, don't open that spreadsheet. Yeah.
Yeah, Jessica, great question. So I might do this while we're here. So, in the spirit of transparency, we're talking about this as a team right now. And I'm naming, just like the implications of the sabbatical on my role. And just, we've been having a conversation as a team about how I can be serving them the most. So I'll actually drop that plan for y'all and would love for you to comment on it. It talks about some of the experiments that I'm running specifically with the team. So you'll see things like leveling up on our skills in equity, right? So like partnering with teams like Deep, partnering with teams like Kimberly and Andrew, to just like continue to invest in the capacity of our team to design our programming in a more equitable way, identify places where we are inequitable. So a lot of my vantage point is just like, how do we continue to invest in the team to support that. We're also doing a lot of work on. Love it. Sorry.
Pretty good.
Yeah. Another thing that I'm working with the team on is just leveling up our skills on data analysis, and just like, in order for us to be transparent with you and with everybody, like, it requires us to have really good information about the work that we're doing. So there's a lot of internal experiments that I'm going to be working with the team on around that as well. And this is really more on the internal front, but I'm really excited about, over all of next week, our entire team is blocked off the entire week to talk about specific experiments that we want to run at the programmatic level. There's a lot of hunches that we've been thinking about, but like we're actually going to leave with like very specific pop-ups and pilots that we're going to be running as a team. So I'll also commit, I'll drop my document now, and I'll commit to sharing those experiments too with you, and would love for you to comment on that too. Give us feedback on it. So
I don't know if you heard in that. That's one of my favorite things about the last few months with Hassan is, leading up to this transition, Hassan has been the architect of the entire Tiny Investments team. And already he said, hey, it's pretty simple. We just need to do what we challenge our founders and our alums to do. And I think that's just such a simple framework that I have been very guilty of never doing on a regular basis. And it's been really fun. And I think it makes us more honest brokers of the experiences that y'all have when Hassan continues to push us and say, what would we do if a fellow was in the room? And let's just hold ourselves to that same standard. And communicate with one another the way we might our community. So, okay, let's see, where are we? We got Jess, Kim's following up, sweet. Demetrius asked, this is awesome feedback, Demetrius, thank you. When is the next Tiny app? We can totally answer that. And then camp, I'll give both of those to Hassan. Yep. And again, I'll just say thanks for this feedback about the turnaround on the September Essentials to Tiny. Why don't you hit those, and then I'll look for the next question.
Yeah, happy to. Demetrius, thanks, man. I'm really excited. I appreciate you sharing that feedback. Can we unmute Demetrius?
Yeah, I got him, yeah.
Awesome. So, so quick calendaring update. So I think you asked about the application is going to be opening up in March, last week of March, and the Tiny Camp, I think you asked about as well, for Wave 4 is going to be happening in early March for this wave that we just accepted, and then it'll be happening basically in August or September of 2018 for Wave 5. Looking ahead, so one of the things that we're trying to do too is just to like continue to restructure and like simplify our rhythm as an organization so that we can forecast these dates and be able to share them with fellows. Looking ahead as well, looking for example a year ahead, so that people can plan on when they best want to jump into the programming, whether it's Essentials or Tiny, knowing that one of the main things that we want to be able to do is to be able to catch people at different stages of their development. So somebody can come and say, okay, like I see that this is the next campaign, and here's the campaign after that, and they can make a decision on whether or not this is the right time for them, given the life occasion they're at, or whether they want to take that semester, off and just like focus on their job or focus on doing more work in their community and come back and join 4.0 a little bit later. On your second point, on just like the turnaround between attending Essentials and coming to Tiny, just to kind of explain that to folks on the call, if you attend Essentials, let's say if you attended Essentials this past September, we want you to go and run a pop-up after coming to camp. And it was really, really tight turnaround between going and running that pop-up and then being able to apply to the Tiny Fellowship. We heard that feedback loud and clear, Demetrius, and starting next with this next coming cycle, anybody who attended Essentials will have 6 to 8 weeks before the application opens. So we heard that feedback clearly. We want to give people 2 months from the time that they actually attend Essentials Camp to be able to actually run their pop-up, reflect on it, synthesize, what they've learned from it, and be able to put in a really strong application for the Tiny Fellowship. So that's actually a perfect example of something that like fellows were like, this makes no sense, like you're asking me to wait 8 months to apply to the Tiny Fellowship, and we were this weird bottleneck for some reason. So we made that edit starting next semester.
Sweet. Okay, so Hassan's dropping his notes on Sabbatical into the chat. Feel free to navigate that whenever you want. I'm just going to open the floor for another minute or two. Maybe a few seconds. Any other questions or thoughts folks have? We'll give you the rest of your evening back. This has been a blast. It's just really fun to see everybody. But yeah, anybody else? Other questions? Janine, let's unmute Janine. Yes.
Hey, this is not a question. I just wanted to say, just having gone through Essentials and now, being in the Tiny Wave 4, being able to see, I know, I'm so excited, but being able to, I remember, Matt, you talked to us in Essentials and you talked to us about, equity and, your growth, and then the growth of the organization. And I think for me, it's just, I'm more than thrilled just to know that, I'm going to be part, and I have been a part of this organization who not only coaches, from the heart, but coaches and grows and is being coached and is growing just like we're growing. So to me, it's like, to be able to learn from you and to learn from everyone else in the organization as you're learning is I don't know. I mean, I can't even. I haven't even wrap my mind around it. But just the genuine sincerity that you all bring to it, it just makes me know that we are actually going to be growing in a way that we're supposed to, as an organization. So just thank you. That's all I got. Yeah, thank you.
If I could give you a fist bump, I would. So I'm going to give you a virtual
pound it up. Pound it up. Yeah.
Everybody.
Thanks.
That means the world, Janine. Thanks. And yeah, look, this is us doing this with each other. I can't claim any growth I get is from what I learned from the amazing people that I am next to. And so I'm grateful for that. That means a lot to me. Thanks. But yeah, with this, the way we do it here. And I'm grateful for every single one of y'all.
Yeah. Thank you.
Anybody else? Pretty good way to finish, actually. Demetrius, thanks for your note too, man. I appreciate that too.
Thanks, Demetrius.
All right, well, I'm just going to leave it with this. The people that work at 4.0 are amazing people. I think those of you who've spent time with them know it, but it's a really amazing feeling to feel like you can step back. Some people talk about being the founder, and those of you who are our founders, you have this feeling of like, this is your baby. And this is my daughter's 10-year birthday tonight. But so this whole idea of like your kids is a very real metaphor with me today, but I don't know. It's a pretty special feeling to feel like I can step away from 4.0 and know at the bone level of my being that 4.0 will be better when I get back, because this is just such an amazing team and an amazing group of people. And this whole 6 months has just been like a clinic for me, and watching this man take the responsibility of being CEO and servant to y'all so seriously and so authentically. I'm not blowing smoke. It's just been one of these experiences in my professional career that's unlike any other. And so I just can't tell you how excited I am for this run. And I'm grateful to you, Hassan. I just wanted to tell you thank you in front of everybody for how enjoyable this process of planning has been. And I can't wait for you to take us to the next level. So thanks.
Thank you, Matt. I'm thankful to you. And like everybody on the team, raise your hand,
yep.
Wave. This is the team that I already asked for forgiveness up front. They're going to be amazing, with working together over the next few months while Matt is on sabbatical. And just thank you to the community, all fellows, and just so much, like seeing everybody from Andre, which is like as old school as
school.
You know, as you can get to. Like Janine coming in with Wave 4 is just really humbling. Like Matt mentioned, we might just start doing these on a monthly basis and just hang out. You
Sounds
know,
good.
catch up with everybody. So thank you for just getting us excited to come to work every day.
That's the last word. That's a good way to end it. All right, everybody, if we don't see you in person, have a glorious holiday, a happy new year, and I will see you on May 19th, and I can't wait to be back, but we're grateful for every single one of you. I hope you have a fantastic holiday, and thanks so much for spending a little time with us. We'll see you, as they say, on the flip side. All right, see you. Thanks, Bree, for negotiating and leading through tonight. All right, bye, everybody.